Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Nanny. Today, we are going to be talking with a pediatrician about how to keep our little ones safe during this pandemic. I know that everybody's concerned about how not to catch it, who come work, who doesn't go to work, and a lot of talk is going on around about the adults, and everyone is focusing on the adults. But as a nanny and a newborn care specialist, I wanted to put some focus on the littles. So we have Dr. Tonya McDonald with us, and she's going to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself, and then we're going to get into a question and answer session.
Hello, everybody. First, I just want to say thank you for having me here on Ask the Nanny. I'm super excited to be with you today. So I am a pediatrician here in Dallas, Texas. I have my own practice that specifically just does house calls for kids from 0 through the end of college. So I cover the whole breadth of childhood into young adulthood. And I've been a pediatrician now for 20 years. Graduated from Harvard Medical School in 1998 and finished my residency at Baylor in 2001. So when I say that I have never seen anything like this, that's with some actual years in pediatrics. This pandemic, clearly, I think all of us know, has been a completely different medical and international event on a scale we have no one has ever experienced. And interestingly enough, I've had some fun conversations as people have said, nothing prepared me for this. I'm like, I don't think there's any preparing for something like this. Nobody's prepared for this. But I think there's a lot that can be done to help allay fears. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about just what we do know about COVID-19.
Okay.
And how hopefully just break some of the, I can't say I break the mystery because there's still a lot of mystery out there.
Yes.
Increase some anxiety especially for caregivers of children.
So tell us, I know as adults, we're like in a frenzy. How does that energy translate to the children? Because I know with us being in a tizzy, kids pick up on our vibes and they act out. Yeah. So what is, from a doctor's point of view, what are we doing to our children?
It's here's the thing. Kids are amazingly resilient. And so short periods of increased anxiety in a family through traumatic experiences, or even happy experiences, which are big changes, will impact kids. And the energy that we're putting out, our tone, our sense of agitation, is something that even the smallest and youngest of infants will pick up on. But I don't think it's possible to pretend that something big's not going on. And so I'm not asking caregivers, parents, nannies, pediatricians to do more than is humanly possible, but I think we need to be very aware of what are the things that we can do to actually decrease our own anxiety, decrease our own sense of fear, so that we're not transmitting that to the children around us. So one of the things, I think it's not going to be a shocker when I say this, but one of the big things that I'm telling everybody to do is really limit your social media news feed time. I get most of my information about life in general through social media or my iPad. And I get a lot of medical information these days through Facebook groups with other doctors. But I found myself this week getting very anxious about COVID-19 as a healthcare professional, sitting in my house with nobody else around because I was not taking breaks from social media. So I've actually put myself on. I can check in the morning, make sure there are no new updates. The Dallas County puts out a update every morning at 10. So I listen to see what big updates they've put out at 10, and then I'll go back on the social media or the news somewhere around 6 p.m. to look at what's going on, what has changed in those 8 hours or so. And then I'm trying to stay off of social media as much as possible outside of that, because for me, the constant questions, the constant communication, the over too much information creates anxiety for me. And being aware of that, I'm trying to take care of my own mental health. As a provider to littles, you're not only having to take care of your own health, but of theirs, because kids hear everything. Y'all know this. They hear things. They will whip out with a statement, and you haven't. There are probably a kid right now, 3 or 4 years old, who no one has specifically said the phrase coronavirus or COVID-19 to, who's going to ask their mom and dad about the coronavirus at some point this weekend, because they've been hearing it around them. So we definitely want to take care of ourselves first. You have to take care of your own tank. You can't love other people, give to other people out of an empty tank. So do the things you need to protect yourself, self-protection. Forget self-care. I'm talking self-protection right now. And then once you've done that, I think it's really important to be honest with children at an age-appropriate level. So for instance, the infants don't really know aren't going to know what's going on, and they have no way of asking. So as much as you can keep your routine to your normal routine, feeding, bathing, even though maybe you're not going to work like you normally would, or older siblings are home in a way that they would normally be, but keep your infants and toddlers as much as you can on their normal routine, normal bath time. All of those things will help create a continued sense of stability for them. So if you have moments as a parent when you get a little more anxious, your face is reading scared or frightened, which by the way, they are picking up on from birth, but you go back to your calm, stable, engaging, comfortable stance with them, they will bounce back very quickly. With a 2 or 3 year old who really, really, really wants to go to the park and play on the merry-go-round, which none of us are trying to touch right now, unless you're trying to go like 7 a.m. after it rained with a whole big can of like your own Lysol to wipe down all the metal. You need to be able to speak to them that, hey, you know what? The park is closed right now, which in Dallas is actually the truth. We're not supposed to be on playgrounds in the city and county of Dallas. So the park is closed right now. So we can't play on the playground. We can't play on the toys. But hey, let's take your ball to the park and you can kick it around on all the grass. Or let's do other things that are still kind of outdoor activities, but on equipment or non-equipment that you don't have to touch, or your own equipment. So taking your own ball out to the park and throwing it as far as you can, or kicking it and chasing it, but still giving them some outside time would be great. Now today, with it raining off and on all day long, we have to kind of think about what you could do indoors. But those things that we can do that keep their routines the same is huge for helping our kids be less anxious. And then as they're older and asking questions, it's be honest and answer their questions. You don't have to give them a lot of detail. Honestly, if a 4-year-old is asking you, what's COVID-19? You can tell them it's a virus that's making a lot of people sick everywhere. Done. And see if a lot of times that's all they want to know, and they're done and they move on. If they have more questions, you can either answer them if you know the answer, or be honest, say, we don't know, but maybe we'll look it up. And what I'll do is send you some links that have some really good child level explanations of COVID-19 that are developmentally appropriate, especially for maybe that fit kindergarten through 7th and 8th grade, those elementary school kids who now know it's out there but don't know what to do, that you can use to how to help educate your kids on what we do know about COVID-19. But routine is going to be key. Tone, I think we all know you can say if you say some pretty ugly stuff, but with the right tone, kids aren't going to pick up on it as much. So be careful about your tone, but also grace to yourself. This is not the week to be trying to start a brand new regimen and routine in your household. This might be a week where we regress back to some maybe not greatest behaviors, but comfortable patterns of living. And we hold off on potty training for another couple of weeks. We hold off on weaning that bottle or taking the pacifier away for a few weeks until things are calmer. We have a more new normal. We kind of see where things go, because if you're already anxious and then you're trying to institute a major change in your kid's life, you're just setting yourself up for failure, drama, regression in behavior, none of the things that we want right now.
Right. I know as an adult, my coping mechanism, I like to cook.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in the kitchen a lot and giving away a lot of food this week. Because it's like, you're cooking all this food, what are you going to do with it? So
send it to me, I'll take it.
So I've been doing a lot of cooking treats and things because it calms me. Mm-hmm. And it centers me, and I focus on positive things. Right. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to do is focus on positive things and putting on my page every day, post some your awesome self, your selfie, or put some positive thoughts here, or a funny video, or some giggles, or whatever, so that it's not so, if I have one thought and somebody else has a thought and somebody else has a thought, and all these thoughts come together on one page, and everybody's just scrolling down, and it's an hour later and you've been giggling the whole time, it has taken away from that, the reality that surrounds us. You have closed yourself off in a little bubble, got yourself a little relief, because laughter is good medicine. And then you go back to, okay, I'm calm, I can handle this. Well, kids need the same thing. Yeah. They need a de-stressor. They need I like my kids come in the kitchen and cook with me. I find special activities. I've been posting activities online in different groups of, this is something that you can do. Today I posted a Lego 30-day challenge with just Legos. And what child doesn't like Legos? Yes. Find unconventional ways to teach children through your environment, through cooking experiments, whatever the case may be, and not necessarily, okay, your teacher says that you've got to get all this work done, and that hard regimen that you were talking about, they're not trying to see that. They're not at school. They're not where they are expected to do this hard, rigid, okay, I'm at my desk, I am doing this.
No, they can't.
They're not there.
They're not there. First off, it's their home, so they're going to want to snack like every hour and a half. So beginning with that, they become hobbits as soon as, they're not in school. But also, I think it's important to recognize that you as a parent or a caregiver who has not, especially with kids who've been in school, suddenly trying to manage, you cannot be a teacher in the same way that an educator is an educator. I think one of the big lessons we're going to learn out of COVID-19 is just how much our educators do every single day. But I think it is important. Start your day with some activity and exercise, whether it's a walk outside if the weather is nice, or silly songs. Put on Kids Bop for 15 minutes and dance around the house and get some energy off before you're trying to do anything that requires a lot of focus, because kids need to burn energy. Find silly, make a fool of yourself with your kids. Like, kids love to laugh, and they really love to laugh at grown-ups. So give them an opportunity to laugh at you with silly faces or crazy costumes, or in my case, it'd be bad dancing. But something that gets that laughter and that joy. And it starts off as a great day. This is going to be a fun day. We're going to do some neat stuff. And yeah, I don't know that getting through all the questions on the list of the stack of homework that was sent home with them for the week, or that you picked up today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, is as important as having them watch you handle major change well. So if that means that instead of working on everything Monday through Friday, you decide that Monday we're going to do a play day and we're going to go online and we're going to do a video tour of the Dallas Arboretum, which is a new video on YouTube since April blossoms, the whole Dallas blooms had to close. One of the gardeners took his cart and is driving you through the entire exhibit and telling you about the different flowers and how they set it up. Many of the major museums in the country are now doing online museum tours. So you can do a virtual tour. I mean, you can literally travel to a different country every day and do a museum tour. So you can go to the Louvre, you can go to the British Museum, you can go to these different places with your kids. So yeah, it's not about that they learned that 1 + 1 was 2 today, but they got to see the Louvre, which, let's be honest, they're not going to do, hopefully, probably for a while. Or we drew pictures of flowers because we went on a flower tour of the Arboretum. Let's draw pictures of flowers. What was your favorite one? Draw your favorite color, and talk about what you saw and talk about what you did. We know for a fact that kids, especially younger kids, learn better in conversation and when you speak to them about what they've seen that's educational. So be intentional about doing that with them. And if you talk to a lot of your homeschool families who have been homeschooling for years, who are all, by the way, also missing out on a whole lot of social stuff that they typically do in their day with field trips and music lessons and gymnastics and all those things. But one of the things that homeschool families have gotten really good at is adjusting the schedule and adjusting the learning based on what that day looks like. And to be honest, if y'all wake up tomorrow, like Monday morning, if everybody's exhausted and everybody is cranky and nobody is in the right mood to like sit in a chair and start working on homework, make it a pajama day. Just say, okay, we're gonna do pajamas this morning. We're gonna make breakfast. What do you want? Let's help me make pancakes or waffles or whatever. And hold off on the schoolwork until later in the day if you're able to. But adjust to your needs, to the kids' needs, be gracious to yourself. It's going to be a huge piece for them. It's been really funny. I mean, you ask kids about, I was asking some families, like, what is the funniest thing your kid has said about COVID-19? And one of my moms responded that her kids were like, so when is it going to be over and is school going to start this summer? Because they're school age and they're like, we're going to be doing school from home? That doesn't seem like nearly as much fun for them. And rather than trying to explain COVID-19, you kind of laugh like, nope, we don't know when it's going to end and we're not real sure what's going to happen with school and when we'll be back. But let's just make it work today. And I think that's going to be a huge piece. Grace for the day. This is a great time to listen to audiobooks with your kids. Pull out some of your favorite books from when you were a child and do audiobooks. I know that many of the libraries are offering access to audiobooks and electronic books, even though the libraries are closed. People are posting themselves reading books online, just different books to their kids. And those are great things to do. Or let your kids read to you, let your older kids read to your younger ones. But I love the fact that you talked about having the kids cook with you. When it's a 2-year-old, you're just trying to get them to stir the bowl and not make a mess. When it's a 4-year-old, you can start talking about its eye hand coordination and cracking that egg or pouring the milk in. With a slightly older kid, you start talking about fractions and measurements. But there's a reward at the end. If you're making cookies, I'll listen to all the measurement training you want to give me if there's a chocolate chip cookie at the end of it.
Right.
Which is if you're just talking about half and a quarter, I don't know. But if I can measure it and, okay, I need you to measure the half mark. What does that look like? Okay, let's measure that into the bowl and I'll stir it. And when there's an end product, let them watch the cookies bake in the oven. I mean, have you ever seen a kid sit in front of an oven when you pop the dough and they just watch just leave the light on and tell them, hey, did you see the cookies spread out? Do you see the chocolate chips melting? That's all teaching and training and education. And it doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be specific. There are generations of people walking the earth today who are successful, members of society, working hard, doctorate degrees, who didn't go to school for a year because maybe they were a refugee in a foreign country during a war, or who had a serious illness and they literally missed a year of school as they fought cancer or dealt with a car accident. And so, but they were in settings where they were read to and they were spoken to, and educational things were built into their everyday activities, but it wasn't formal training, and they did fine. So I think it's important to know that missing a few weeks of formal education is not going to keep your kid from getting into college, university, and becoming whatever they want to be when they grow up, especially if you're in a household that sings songs and dances and reads and goes on nature walks. And honestly, with a small person, a nature walk could literally be your sidewalk in your apartment complex because there are leaves on the ground.
Yes.
Ladybugs are amazing.
Yes. Well, I personally always tell my kids cooking is an experiment because you never know what's going to happen. If you put too much of one thing, it could explode. You know, that baking powder, it's like the baking soda, add vinegar to that, and you got a volcano. So you never know what's going to happen simply because cooking is an experiment. I like to take my grandma's recipes and tweak them and add this. Oh, this would taste good with some pecans in it. This will taste good with some vanilla flavoring and not just, that cinnamon and sugar. I always take recipes and I take kids and I like to call it unconventional teachable moments.
Exactly.
They don't know they're learning. I know they're learning. And if measuring and, like you said, getting that cookie at the end, I'll figure out which one of these is the 1/2 cup, which has got notches on it. So this is 1/2, this is 1/4, this is 2/3 or 3/4 or whatever. They can find those little notches, and if you have more than one in the kitchen at a time, oh no, you did it wrong. You're supposed to have it this way. And they're teaching one another the correct amount that's supposed to go in there. Well, if this is not the right amount, how much do I need to pour out?
Right.
And I need to pour out 1/4 cup of that, or it needs to come back. There are so many combinations that you can do with kids and just cooking, doing science projects, going outside. A rainy day is a good day for worm hunting.
It is. It is a good day.
Because the worms come up to the surface. The water pushes, as the water soaks down, the worms are crawling up. I can't tell you, I have 3 boys. I can't tell you how many times I have done worm digging, especially going out with our rain boots on and rain gear. If it's not too cold outside, go out there, find the biggest puddle, let them splash.
Girl, yes. 65.
And it is so much, and make pretend fishing hooks and throw some of the plastic toys from your bathtub into the pond and attach something metal to a string, attach something metal to the fish, and they can, use a magnet and go fishing in the pond. And they have creative imaginations. A puddle becomes a pond or a lake. Mm-hmm. And they're walking in the lake and get a stick and, this becomes the fishing pole. Use your imagination or let them use their imagination. Ask them, what should we use for a fishing pole? How can we figure out how to get these fish up out of this water? They will come up with some of the most creative things, and that's called critical thinking.
Yes, it's a beautiful
which is problem solving, which is what you want because it creates that critical thinking, and the problem solving is what they need to solve those school questions.
Yes, so it's so important, and I think in a world right now, I know a lot of people are very concerned about the medical implications of COVID.
Yes.
What do we do? What do we look for? And And I will say the hardest thing about COVID-19 for most of us is the fact that for most kids, it's a cold. It's going to look like a cold for the most part, which is annoying because who needs another cold? But it's more for, it's when we get concerned as docs is when we have more cough than runny nose and congestion, the fever, and then that shortness of breath. So what I always tell parents who are concerned about shortness of breath, it's not that they sound stuffy. It's that when they go to talk or they sing their songs, they're taking breaths in weird spaces. So if you're singing the ABC song, but you have to pause in a different spot than normal, that's shortness of breath, right? In itty bitties and the infants, you're going to see them using that stomach more. They're going to be breathing faster. But in bigger kids who, you may not really see a lot of muscle movement and a lot of pulling at the neck that you think of with an infant. But you'll hear them pause more in the middle of a talk. Their speech isn't as smooth as normal. But I just love, when I'm not sure what's going on, I'll have a kid, I was like, sing the ABCs for me. And when they break in a weird spot, then I'm like, okay, we're struggling to breathe here. And then that's when you call your physician. That's when you should call your pediatrician or your family practice doc and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're hearing. And we don't know that kids are going to all present with fever. We don't think they all will. We think a lot of kids will be coughing and and a little bit congested and have nothing else. We know that there's some asymptomatic patients out there. So there are definitely people out there right now with COVID-19 who don't know it, who don't look sick, who won't look sick, who will get through their 14 or 12 days or however long of illness and never really have symptoms at all. We are in the middle of allergy season. We are still in the middle of flu season. We are still in RSV season. And we are about to move into hand, foot, and mouth season. So It's coming. It's every spring. You know it.
I know. I hate it.
So I think it's really important. A lot of the things that we are talking about right now with COVID-19, the hand hygiene, the good hand washing, the coughing into your elbow or a cough pocket, as I heard a mom call it, which I loved. This is your cough pocket. Coughing into your cough pocket and not being careful when you touch things that are metal or plastic or wood that you're not sure if they're clean surfaces. Washing your hands again before you touch your mouth, before you touch your face. That's just good hand hygiene, whether it's coronavirus or influenza or RSV. That's a good thing for everyone to practice all the time. It's a little concerning that, how many times we're teaching grown-ups to wash their hands now all over again. I think we've always done a better job teaching kids about washing their hands than we've done as adults. I know for a fact, even as a pediatrician, I'm much better about waiting 20 seconds when I'm scrubbing my hands with my niece and nephew than I was when I was just on my own. But now I've taken my rings off and I scrub and I even make sure that I take my watch off at the end of the day, and I have one of those phone soaps that's the blue light to sanitize my phone. I throw my watch in there at the end of every day just to be on the safe side, because I still wear it. So I'm not taking it off. I need to know what time it is, and I need the second hand when I'm doing heart rates and respiratory rates on babies and kids. But I think the hand sanitizer, the hand hygiene piece is really important. I think with COVID-19, the other thing that's scary for so many people is this whole concept of not being able to test for it. Why can't we get the test? Well, to be honest, there's just not enough tests out there for everybody in the country to get tested.
This is true.
But think of it too, it's like the beginning of the flu season this year, if you came into your doctor's office and you had a fever and body aches and chills and felt like you'd been hit by a truck, and it had been in the last 48 hours, if they swabbed your nose, if the flu test came back negative, most of the time the doc still told you, well, it might still be the flu, and the test might just not be positive yet. Because every test has a certain percentage of what we call false negatives. Well, we don't know what the false negative rate is on the COVID-19 test. All of the tests that are out there, the CDC approved ones that the counties are using, some of the more expensive ones that are giving people results back in a much shorter time frame. None of those have gone through all the rigorous testing that we normally do to be able to run a strep on a kid. That strep swab that I do and hope it comes back positive, but when it comes back negative, I still send a backup culture, right, for those sore throats, because there's still a certain amount of those that will come, the negative ones that will grow bacteria later. We don't have a mechanism like that for COVID. We don't have a backup mechanism right now. So if you swab negative for COVID-19 today, but you have symptoms of COVID-19 and you have known exposures to COVID-19, we want you to treat yourself as COVID-19. We're not going to say it's the flu. We're not going to say it's another virus. We're going to tell you to self-quarantine and watch for symptoms at home as if we had a positive swab. So do I need to test everybody, especially if they're relatively healthy and they're looking okay and they're not struggling to breathe and their oxygen levels are fine? They just have cough and a fever, when they're probably not going to change what we're going to do, right? And honestly, as a pediatrician, shoving a Q-tip into a kid's nose to swab for a test that isn't going to change what I'm going to do for that kid, not high on my list of things I want to do.
I know, right?
And I mean, y'all, it is a very specific, like tilt the head back 70 degrees, make sure you get the Q-tip all the way back in the back of the nose to get it out. If there's too much mucus in the nose, you have to have the patients blow their nose before you swab them. It is, if you've ever seen a kid get an RSV or flu test done, imagine that, but deeper with a little more aggressiveness because you have to be more thorough. If your kid's got a fever and a cough and breathing healthy and breathing well, stay home, because that's the treatment, especially for children, is stay home. I know that there's been a lot of rumors, oh my goodness, the stuff coming on Facebook about this medicine and that medicine, and maybe they can try this. None of those medicines have been proved. I mean, even the most promising studies that have been looking at some of the malaria drugs are looking at maybe 24 patients, 30 patients, not nearly enough people to be able to say it's going to work across the world, across all populations. We know different ethnicities, ages, genders respond differently to different medications. And honestly, even if we had a dosing for adults, I wouldn't know how to dose that same medication in a child. Many of those medications aren't used in children, or if they are, they're used at really slow doses. And there's side effects to all of those medications that people are talking about possibly using. So when they are using them, it's typically in the sickest of the sick patients. They're trying them in families and in situations where people are on death's door, honestly, and they're trying to do anything they can to try and save those people from dying. They're not taking a healthy person who has COVID-19, who is a runny nose, or actually not even really a runny nose. They're a congestion and a cough, but their oxygen levels are great, and maybe they feel a little tired, but that's it. Those aren't the people that they're testing these medicines on. So asking for them in just in case is not going to happen. Most doctors are not going to get you medicines just in case. But I do want to tell people, if you're an asthmatic and you have a nebulizer at home, or your child had RSV in the past and you have a breathing machine at home, we do know that putting persons with COVID-19 on that breathing machine is a way to aerosolize the virus and actually spread the virus to other people. And so we are advising against using nebulizers for coughs in non-asthmatics or in people you highly suspect have COVID-19, without also putting on an N95 mask for everyone in that room or in that space. So at a doctor's offices right now, one of the reasons why we're looking for N95 masks and making sure we have them. Not only do we have to wear them along with all the other gear to do testing if we needed to do testing, but also if you have a patient who needs to get a neb treatment and you suspect that COVID-19 could be the cause of their cough, you have to have all of that on while you're administering their asthma medication using the nebulizer. Because you don't want to put
no nebulizer on the kids.
I would not,
because it can pass it along to someone else.
I would definitely not do nebulizer on a kid just as a let's see if it helps situation. Now, if your kid is a known asthmatic and they're having a classic asthma attack, and they have not been around someone who has traveled recently in the last few weeks, they've not been around a known confirmed COVID-19 case, and I have to choose between you having an asthma attack and ending up in the hospital with your asthma attack, or possibly having the COVID-19 spread in your home, I would go ahead and do a treatment for those kids. But I would not be the person, I would not recommend borrowing somebody's nebulizer because your kid is coughing a C and maybe it'll help. Stay away from those machines because you're putting yourself at risk. And then that's the other thing that makes me think of is okay, first off, I've never seen a child put a mask on and keep a mask on for any reason if they're not sedated. So trying to keep a mask on a child, yeah, usually before the age of about 9, hard, very hard to do. So there's just no reason in putting a mask on your kid just to go to the grocery store or just to be out and about if you have to be out and about, which I'm not recommending. But you will definitely see people out right now with a mask on and gloves on, driving their cars, going about their everyday, going about their life. And I don't know if those people are immunocompromised or not. And some of them probably are and are taking care of their needs that way. But if you're a healthy, immunocompetent person with no main medical risk who does not have a cough or runny nose or any kind of cold or flu signs yourself, then you do not need to be wearing a paper surgical mask out and about. Because honestly, we know for a fact that while it protects you from spreading things to other people, there's very little protectiveness from you getting viruses in. The viruses are small enough to pass through those masks. And so they lose any real effectiveness for COVID-19 that we even think they have. So the reason why you'll hear N95, which by the way, the doctors are using them, and shout out to all the construction workers, welders, craft people who do like fine metal work, who are donating those masks to hospitals and healthcare providers. I actually got some from someone who makes jewelry. She was like, I got a mask for you. Those are a particular type of mask. They're super, super fine pore masks, and they are more protective. We still don't think they're 100%, but they definitely block more viruses in the COVID-19 virus, more so than the surgical masks do. And we're still only using them in hospital and clinic settings for when we're doing nebulizer treatments or intubating someone, or when we're testing directly for COVID-19. And otherwise, we're using just our regular surgical mask and our good hand washing, just as we did throughout the whole flu season. And honestly, if you think about it, when you go to your doctor's office and you think you have a flu, it's very rare for them to wear a mask. Pediatricians tend to wear masks more because kids cough in our faces and sneeze on us directly a lot. Have no filter, and so we just try to keep that stuff from actually hitting your mouth and your nose and your eyes. Thank goodness for glasses right now.
Yes.
Many of you may find that your pediatrician has been wearing contacts all these time, and because suddenly they're in glasses, because now they're like, protect those eyes from things getting into those mucous membranes. But yeah, so if you don't have a mask right now to go out for your power walks and when you get your sunshine and your cardio, it's okay, you don't need them. If you do know someone though who is immunocompromised, who's on medicine for autoimmune disease, or they're on steroids for something like daily oral steroids, or they're a chemotherapy patient in the middle of chemotherapy, and you have masks you want to share with them, I'm sure they won't turn them down. But also just be kind and stay away from those people as much as you can, until this virus dies down. Then we flatten that curve out, and we move past this peak of risk for death from COVID-19.
Okay. Now, I know we talked about allergies. I
Yeah.
know I lose my voice in the springtime and the fall time because I have environmental allergies. Um, if we have allergies and our children have allergies, because I know I pass my allergies on to my children, my grandchildren have allergies, is it um, detrimental? Can they catch it easier because they have allergies? Because that during this time of the year, their immune system kind of just takes a hit because allergies just kind of wipe them out?
So,
Are they more susceptible to catching the virus now?
so here's what
Or,
I don't think so. So this
okay,
is an interesting thing. I know we all think of allergies as making you more immune or more at risk because your nose is always running and you're irritated. And I would definitely say, like, if you have a little who rubs his nose a lot, and so there's like irritation underneath their nose and skin, so they have open skin from rubbing their nose and blowing their nose so much, that could put you at more risk because you have an open area for if you get in contact with the virus for it to get in easier. But when you think about what allergies are, is allergies are actually an overreactivity of your immune system. So your immune system, as opposed to not working at all, is working overtime.
okay,
And so the mucus that you're making is your immune system thinking that pollen is a virus and trying to flood the virus out. That cough is you've made all this mucus and now it's going down the back of your throat because you're making so much of it that your body's coughing to keep the mucus from going into your lungs and keeping you from drowning on your own mucus. The ear infections that the kids develop and the ear pain that they get with their allergies is the same mucus you're coming out of your nose gets backed up behind the eardrum, and there's nowhere for it to go, and it causes that pressure and that ear pain. So I don't think that allergies put you more at risk of COVID-19 and catching other viruses. We've not seen any studies. I'm not aware of any studies that show that kids with allergies are more prone to getting flu or RSV or strep or any of the other, hand, foot, and mouth disease or any of the other viruses that are seasonal. Because we definitely have people with fall allergies and winter allergies and spring allergies. So you would expect that data to be out there by now if it was truly a case. I think the problem is that it's hard to know what's causing your kid to cough if they have allergies that are untreated and there's a virus going around. So I'm a big advocate for people using their allergy medicines thoroughly. Take your Flonase if you need it. Use your Zyrtex or Claritins or whatever your oral allergy medicines are. Do your good allergy care with the washing your face when you come in from outside, washing your hands when you come in out from outside to decrease the load of your triggers that you're tracking into your house. I even have some families where the seasonal allergies are so bad that the kids basically go outside and play, change in the garage, wipe down, and then put on fresh clothes when they come in the house, because if that pollen gets into the house with them, everyone in the house is sneezing and coughing with their allergies, and they just can't get away from the pollens because they're that sensitive. So I am advocating people treat their allergies, but I don't think being an allergic kid puts you more at risk for COVID-19.
okay.
There's nothing out there to say that it is. Now, 20 years from now, they may have a different study, but as of right now, we don't put any increased risk for disease on kids who have allergies for catching viral things. Now, if your kid has chronic allergies, are they more prone to develop a sinus infection? Yes. Are they more prone to develop an ear infection? Yes, but those are functions of all the mucus overproduction, not the viruses themselves or extra bacteria themselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I'm concerned because I know I have allergies and I work with newborns.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have not had a problem before because I always tell parents, especially in the springtime, I lose my voice. I go from the berry white down here to the curry the frog up here. And then I go, I can't talk. So it's because of the environment and like you said, the mucus going down my throat, it just affects me. And then because it's dry, I cough
Right.
because my voice box is dry, and I'm always trying to put a cough drop or something to keep me swallowing. I'm drinking a lot of water to keep it moist, but in between bouts, I'm sitting here like, don't cough, don't cough, don't cough, don't cough. And then all of a sudden, when you hold it in, it's like you start coughing, and it's just like this big coughing fit because you held it in for so long instead of, or you're going all the time trying to get rid of that tickle in your throat. And I can always tell when my allergies are coming on because I get this little tickle right here. It's like right where the outside of your nose starts and the inside, that little flap that goes up, it gets right. It's like, it feels like a hair or a feather that gets caught right here. I'm like, no. And I start drinking water profusely and I try to head it off at the pass.
Drink
But
water, take your honey, drink your tea,
yes,
gargle with warm salt water. Gargle with warm salt water fixes a multitude of things, honestly.
yes, it does.
And then suck on Werther's Originals butterscotch candies.
Seriously. Okay,
Butterscotch,
so I've
butterscotch.
been buying Ricola.
You can do those too, but those don't taste as good. Um,
No, they don't.
but
So Werther's Original.
Originals butterscotch candy, and they make sugar-free ones, in case you're diabetic or watching your sugars. But something about the way butterscotch is made, it as it melts, it's soothing, and it soothes the back of their throat. I have found it works better as a cough drop and for kids with sore throat. And what I love for both adults and kids is it's not medication. So when you have a kid in school who's got a tickle in their throat or sore throat, if you have give them cough drops, they're supposed to take them to the school nurse, which means they have to get up out of the classroom, go to the school nurse's office to get a cough drop to come back to the classroom. We've lost half the class time. Butterscotch is candy. They don't need a doctor's note for butterscotch. So
I'm going to, before everything runs out at the stores, I'm going to go get me some butterscotch to prepare because the allergies haven't really hit me. I can tell there's a tickle in my throat, and I'm like, but if I start drinking water,
yeah.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I've also been doing pineapple and ginger tea.
Yes.
Take the pineapples, the fresh pineapples and the ginger root, and
Mm-hmm.
I put it in a cup and I boil some water and I pour it over the tops and let it kind of steep,
Mm-hmm.
and then I drink like the broth off of it, and it really, it calms my throat, it calms it, and I've heard that pineapples kill a lot of bacteria in the body.
That I don't know about that for sure. I haven't. That's not my expertise
Well, that's
area.
why I said I heard.
I've
And
heard the same thing. I have definitely heard for ginger. I like ginger because I like things with kick anyway. I definitely have heard for ginger for use for nausea. Um, and I think I see where ginger definitely, it gives you that sort of like something spicy, gives you that kick in your back of your throat and helps
mhm.
clear stuff out. I definitely, I know it doesn't hurt to do it, so I definitely say if it works for you, try it. Whatever warm tea liquid helps you soothe your throat, especially a non-caffeinated one. We do know that steam helps with loosening up congestion, helping things
Mhm.
move, thinning out congestion. So once kids are old enough to drink some tea, I'm all in on them drinking tea. Clearly not super, super hot because I don't want them to scald themselves, but it's amazing what giving a kid tea will do and how much more fluid you can get into them when it's flavored, even if it's tea,
Right, right.
than water. But yeah, so I think allergies, I mean, our allergy friends right now in the middle of COVID-19 need to manage your allergies well so that you can tell if there's a change. I think that's the key piece is most people with chronic allergies, you know your allergy cough, you know what your allergy sore throat feels like, you know what that allergy tickle is. Kids can't communicate that well. And you see kids with allergies as young as 6, 7, 8 months of age nowadays. And so if you suspect allergies, I tell people treat the allergies first. And that way, if a fever develops, a cough develops, something else develops, you know you've already kind of taken the allergy piece out of the equation, and you can be better able to monitor the other symptoms.
Okay. Sounds good. Do you have any last piece of sage advice for us as we maneuver through this?
I think my biggest piece of sage advice, or just my COVID theme right now, COVID-19 theme, is practice kindness. And look for, we teach kids, Mr. Rogers was awesome for
Look
this.
for the helpers.
Look for the helpers. Teach the kids to look for the helpers, but also look for the helpers yourself. It's amazing when, I always tell people, you find what you're looking for, right? So we're looking for more COVID-19 right now. So we're finding more cases of COVID-19. When we start looking for flu at the beginning of flu season, we start finding flu. We know there's flu in the middle of summer. We know there are kids who get the flu and, outside of traditional flu symptoms, but we don't look for it at that time of the year. And I think the same thing is true for kindness and joy and for the helpers in this is look for opportunities to be kind, look for opportunities to share joy, and then look for people who are helping and how you can help. Whether it's, writing cards, get a bunch of cards and have the kids draw pictures and cards, even if they can't write words, just be sent to a local nursing home that's on full isolation and people can't come to visit, or check with your church list. I'm sure there's a list of sick and shut-ins and the elders in the church who really shouldn't be out and about. A card written by a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old with a picture that might need translation written out by the adult on the bottom so you have a clue what you're looking at can bring a lot of joy to someone else. And it gives kids an opportunity in this setting to do something great. I mean, we want to reinforce the positive. So give them opportunities to do those positive things. But yeah, look for the helpers, be kind. And that includes being kind to yourself. Like if you're overwhelmed, you're feeling tired, your tank is empty, and you need a bar of dark chocolate, have some dark chocolate. If you desperately need to go for a run, put the kids in a stroller and go for a run and just run where you're not around, just don't run in groups. Or, turn on some dance music and dance, especially to some 80s and 90s music. I feel like we should introduce an entire generation of kids to some good old music because
yes,
they don't know the stuff that we know. So I feel like COVID-19 could be the regeneration of good 70s, 80s, and 90s music.
Hey.
Introduce it to
have a good old dance party.
Great old dance parties. Teach them about 8-tracks and cassette tapes and CD players and dude, like
that. Now you really going old school.
so hey, I grew up with a tape. Look, I remember having that tape to tape, man. And if you could dub like 2
yes
tapes at once, you were doing some stuff. And listen to the radio, waiting for your song to come on.
Yeah, then you hit the record button.
Oh, the DJ didn't talk before the song ended. Man.
And all through the song.
Like pull out some of those old songs, pull out old albums, picture albums from when you were a kid, or just, I know my mom has a gazillion pictures. And this would be, if only we'd known ahead of time, this would be a great time to have these old pictures to go through with my niece and nephew for my sister, or to see how we dressed back then. Look at that toy and look at your hair and what was that? And look at the cars. And again, it's that unconventional teaching and education in a way that would be fun, because again, they get to laugh at us because they love to laugh at us.
Right.
Those are some of the things we can do, but be kind to yourself. We need a break, take a break. Um, Timeouts are great for everybody, and timeouts don't have to be punishment. Timeouts can just be mama needs a break. It's everybody go lay down for 30 minutes. You don't have to go to sleep. We're just going to take some quiet time, take a brain break. Let's give ourselves as adults the same courtesy we give kids to be tired and exhausted, so that we can fill our tanks, so that we can be there for the kiddos.
Right. And don't try to be super mom, super dad, and super nanny.
No.
Because everyone is working overtime. And when I say working overtime, I mean kids are at home. They're displaced because they're used to being in a certain place and they're not there anymore. So you're overwhelmed with trying to entertain them, trying to keep them busy, trying to get dinner on the table, trying to keep baby quiet, trying to get this done, trying to get that done, and never mind the house get cleaned. So it can be overwhelming, and taking a break. And I know OCD is a real thing, but sometimes you're gonna have to let that go. Just let it go. Be like Frozen, let it go.
Let it go. And
let it go.
I will say this, as a pediatrician, I know we're really big on limiting screen time and not, just plopping kids in front of TVs nonstop. But I do feel like right now, if as a parent, as a family, you need to do a little more screen time in this season, because again, you are home 24/7 with your children now, and not getting a break, and they're not getting a break from us. And we can pretend, but they don't always want to be around adults.
True.
It's okay. I think it's okay to use TV a little bit more than you normally would. Not saying for 8 straight hours, of course, but we definitely want to give them some fun screen time. And especially the older kids who right now are doing all schoolwork on screen. That schoolwork screen time should not count against their regular screen time, and recreational screen time. So when we talk about those 2-hour limits, we're talking recreational screen time. So if the screen is on because we're doing yoga as a family, that doesn't count against your 2 hours of screen time. And with YouTube, the Zumba classes,
everything.
Old Mr. Rogers. I mean, all the stuff is out there now. So use it to catch breaks when you need to.
Yes. And if you need some stories to read, because the library is not open, I have on my YouTube page children's favorite read aloud books. And there are stories that are narrated with soundtrack behind them. And you can just pick out a book and click on the book, and the story unfolds.
And if there's a book you already have in your house, you can hand the kid the book and let someone else read it to them.
Right. So, it's an option if you could be. And the reason I started recording books is because I like reading books to my charges. And in the springtime, for like 2 or 3 weeks, my voice is just like, if I read too much, because they like to read 10 books, especially during allergy season, I like this by the end of the book.
Right.
And so I have taken the books and recorded them with the pictures and everything, so that I can just push the play button, and we're sitting there with the iPad or the telephone or whatever screen we have, and we're enjoying a book. And we can stop and hit rewind and replay and whatever the case may be, and we're reading a book. And if they want to read 10 books, there's 10 that I think it's like over 100 books that I've recorded on my YouTube channel. So we can read books and read books and read books and read books. And they always have a favorite. So you have to read that book 10 times. And that doesn't include, no. That was just one book. That wasn't my 10 books. That was just one book 10 times.
So, you figured it out real young. They're really
Yeah.
smart with that stuff, really young. It's amazing.
So most of the books are appropriate for children ages 2 to about 6 or 7. They're all picture books because I work with a lot of toddlers and preschoolers. So that's what the books are geared towards, the toddlers and the preschoolers. So the older kids, not so much.
Well, with the
Um,
older kids, you can do audio. There's a lot of good audio books out
yes,
there. Many of the kids, once the kids get into chapter books, a lot of those books are actually available as audio books, but it's amazing how many of those are out on YouTube as well. The other thing, one of my favorite tricks is have the older child read to the younger child.
yes, yes, yes. When I have my summer camp with my grandkids, I cater to my youngest, who is 3.5, and I get the picture books, but they enjoy it. So I have them all read a page, and then I help my 3-year-old read his page.
Yep.
I don't get a turn. I don't get a turn. I don't get a turn. So I help him read his page, and they all read. And it's learning. It's teaching them new words because picture books, you can learn over 1,000 words. A child can learn over 1,000 words with just a picture book.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Um,
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tonya, for sharing with us today. And thank you for hanging in there with me through all of our technical difficulties. And if you want the link to my YouTube page, it's youtube.com/C/The Third Parent Academy. Or you can just go to YouTube and look up The Third Parent Academy, and you'll find episodes of Ask the Nanny. There are recipes galore on there for meals and treats for the kids, easy recipes for you to make. There are also science projects and what I like to call the TOTS review. There are science projects, there are making of toys and games and things on there, and of course, the children's read aloud books. So there's so much to share on Ask the Nanny and on the YouTube page, the Third Parent Academy. And thank you all for joining us today. And if you haven't done so already, please stop by Ask the Nanny and leave us a review and like our page, and stop by Radiance Pediatrics and like Dr. Tanya's page. And Dr. Tanya didn't tell you, she makes house calls, but only in the Dallas area.
Only in the Dallas area. I mean, if
And that's Dallas, Texas, not Dallas somewhere else. That's Dallas, Texas.
I need to, another location, we could talk about it. Right now, only in the Dallas area.
She's in the Dallas, Texas area. So if you're in the Dallas, Texas area and you need a house call, a doctor for a house, call Dr. Tanya. So we will put some links in our comments as to the website, and Dr. Tanya was going to put some links in the comments. So we will see you all next week on Monday, March the 23rd. We are talking with an ethicist, it's hard to say, a professor of ethics about what's going on in the nanny community and what's affecting us the most with this COVID virus. And we will see you on Monday, the 23rd of March. And we'll see you later. Thank you for joining us.
Bye, everybody.